wanted to do this morning was to take a look and read the blog and then open everything up for questions, meditation questions, sadhana questions, what's going on, okay? So I just wanted to put this out here, there. Believing in Baba. Let's get this out on the table. There are people who received tremendous gifts from Baba, but once the sex scandal came out, they left. These people say they cannot come to grips with what he did. What did he do? That is the question. Did he have sex? Apparently not. No one I know of has said he did that. What was it then? A tantric ritual? It looks that way, but I was not there. I cannot say what happened because when I was given the opportunity, I said no. Did Baba have a problem with my saying no? No, not at all. I took that experience as a test of where I was, not where he was. Some will say and have said that Baba was powerful and you could not say no to him. Not once in all my years of being close to Baba did he ever make me feel that I could not say no to him. I did say no to him many times. Did I know Baba had great power and was a true guru? Yes. And I still would say no to him. And if I were wrong, we would find out. Baba was a great being from a tradition about which most Westerners have no idea. People who came to Baba thought they knew what all this spirituality was. But when they got close to the fire, things were not what they expected. We do not know until we unknow. Then, what once made no sense becomes clear. I went to Baba to get the truth. I was not looking for a lifestyle or some psychedelic experience. I wanted the bottom line of existence. From the first, I knew that Baba wasn't just about the Shakti and wild experiences. Baba lived the truth. I wanted what he had, so I pursued him with all I had. What I wanted was invisible and internal and eternal. The ashram dharma, the chants, the seva, the politics, even the people were not what I was interested in. I wanted what Baba had. Nityananda had manifested in a certain way. Baba manifested in a different way from his guru. I manifest differently from each of them. The inner sameness is what I am after. The inner state, not the outward play. Baba gave each of us what we wanted. He used to say, I give you what you want so that someday you'll want what I have to give you. He gave each of us what we wanted at the level where we were and challenged us to go deeper. In my case, Baba showed me real internal practice. And I have not been disappointed or disillusioned or in any way ever had the need to find another teacher. Baba continues to come and teach. He has never left me. It has both bothered and saddened me to see the level of promiscuity in people's spiritual lives. They move from teacher to teacher, tradition to tradition, cobbling together personal spiritual journeys that lead them nowhere. For many, spirituality is really just dressed up hedonism. They are looking for the ultimate pleasurable or aesthetic experience. I learned from Baba that sadhana is never about experiences, nor is it ever about patching together something called a personal spirituality. There is a reason to stay steady and to discipline ourselves internally as well as externally. We must create a strong vessel to receive what the Guru gives us, and then be able to dissolve that vessel so that we can merge back into God. Baba never let me down. He was always consistent. I trusted him because in part he had proven himself completely trustworthy. Was being with Baba easy? No. The Guru is here to drive us home. We say we want to go there, and yet when things get a little uncomfortable or strange, we pull back the reins and find ourselves back at the beginning, nowhere. Surrender is everything around a Guru. What do we surrender? Everything that is not real. So, we are no longer attached to our pride, self-esteem, intellect, and emotions. Scary? Yes, if you do not know whom you are with. I knew and still know that Baba was real. Baba was and is a true Guru. During meditation last week, I got that Baba sacrificed his reputation and everything worldly for each of us. He wanted us to focus on the truth, on God, not on the comings and goings of an institution. I am sorry that there are people who feel hurt by his actions. I am sure there were many who felt wronged or hurt by Baba. I understand how hard it has been for them. They have to stay true to what they believe, and I pray that at some point they will have resolution in whatever form it may take for them. For me, there is no conflict. So there will be people who think I am blind, ignorant, and deluded. Maybe I am. But as I move through this life, I find every day, whether life is easy or a struggle, that the practice and truth that Baba instilled in me grow stronger and brighter, and everything is clearer, calmer, and filled with love. There is less of Rohini every day and more of Baba, filled with love and peace in God. So if I am deluded, so be it. Call Baba what you will. For me, he will always be Sat Guru. Comments? Anything? And by the way, Baba had the worst teeth ever. So of course I now have to have root canal. See? As long as if I had stayed with Rohini, maybe I could have kept this tooth longer.
So before he left his body, he saw where SYDA was going to that more worldly, power-driven...
He knew it way before, yes. Yes, it was very, very clear.
And what's the ultimate sacrifice for all of us? I mean, for him to... Because, as you said last week, something that there's a history of great beings that when they died, people talk poorly about them, they weren't real, they weren't this.
So you get to see who's real and who isn't, who's actual.
Yeah.
So as on the side of the disciple gets to, you get to see who really got what the being had to offer. Over and over and over again, there's that.
Okay.
Here we are at Christmas time, and I don't think Christ had such a happy ending. Got to see who followed or who believed at the end and who didn't. So, yeah.
I think that what you wrote is beautiful, and I appreciate you saying it.
Thank you. Yeah. It was time. I'd waited and waited, and I thought other people would say it, but nobody had said it, so okay, I got it. I need to say it. Bob always had me have a mouth, so I said it. And it's important. And each of us has to figure out where we stand and where we are, and be not afraid to say what we need to say. We each have to have our own voice. And as I said, I used to say to Baba, no. And if it was wrong, I'd find out. But he didn't have a problem with me saying no. I said no a lot. And the closer I got to him, I'd say no. I said no. Wasn't a problem. There's the story of when he said, would you like to give a talk? And I said no. And then he gave me a look. Well, if you want me to, I'll do it. But you asked me if I wanted to, and I said no, I don't want to. But I did it. But he never asked me to do anything that would go against me. He never asked me to do anything that wasn't for my betterment, that was hurtful to anybody or anything. So. Okay. Questions? Yeah.
You know, again on Monday we talked about this, and you know, you said again about how you wanted what Baba had to offer. You wanted that, and you know, hearing again and again about how many people there were around Baba, and how, you know, access to him was limited. Can you tell us again, like, how is it that you actually got, you know, as close to him as you did?
I was annoying. Okay. So, all right. So everybody goes to the at the DeVille. Here's a perfect example. At the DeVille, everybody, that was where we rented a hotel in 1976, and everybody would go to the evening program. So there's like 500 people at the evening program, and they'd come up and they'd get bopped on the head, and he'd give a little talk and that. I wasn't there. I actually have a picture of where I was somewhere. Yeah, I was outside. I was the guard at the gate where he would walk across. He had a house, and he'd walk across the field, and there would be a gate, and then he would walk into the building. So I was at the gate. What did that mean?
You have to pass.
He had to pass me. And I was there every day. And he had to look at me, or not look at me, but he knew I was there. And it wasn't like there were 15 people or 20 people or 30 people, just me. And I was sacrificing from being in the hall, so for doing the guard job, but I wanted that moment of one-on-one with him. Oh, I was very sneaky that way. No, I'm here. Hello, hi, yes, I'm here. So he'd walk past me and he'd say, hi, good, whatever. And then he'd walk past me the next day, and he had to walk past me twice. Dunk, dunk, dunk. And he knows who I am, what I do, this, and that, and then that. And that was how I started it. Because I didn't care about what was public. I wanted that practice that he knew. And though he said it publicly, I knew I wanted that relationship with him so that he could actually and he didn't meet with people privately that much. It would only be like somebody from outside. They were coming in. They were what we call big people. They would see him. He maybe saw 10 people, and they would be like 10 minutes each over an hour time, and that would be it. That would be it. So either you talked to him, either you had some kind of a working relationship with him, or you saw him in the evening program, or sometimes he would walk in the halls and you would be there. And so I was determined to do that. So then we got to Ganesh Puri, and I became in charge of security. And so that meant I went for walks. When he walked around every afternoon, I walked. So there were like 3 of us or 4 of us that walked around the gardens and see what, and I kept on doing it. So I would look for situations where, one-on-one. Okay, you, I want to be with you. Come here. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to go. And that's what I did. Because I wanted what he had. And he knew it. So he then, there would be, did he need somebody standing at the back stairs? Yes, he did. Me. Okay.
Thanks.
So, when you first met him, you said you knew you wanted what he had, but I would imagine like that chain. I mean, there was certain like how as you were practicing, some sort of evolution of how, like realization of what he had. Like what he had, but then as you started to let go of things, like you practiced, then you got a deeper understanding.
What happened was, in my experience at Arcata in California, I actually experienced complete and total, like, witness in a way. This was not at all anything. This wasn't anything. Mine, anything. Completely separate and completely the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened was, as the days go on, it sort of fades.
Okay.
It faded.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I knew at that moment, that's what I'm looking for. He's got it. I've been to these other teachers that helped me to get to that so far, but that's what I want. So I knew that I had to do whatever had to get to be with him. So I went back to Boston. David Rockefeller bought out my lease. The whole thing occurred, the dissolution of my school and everything. And then when I went to the ashram, a lot of people went in with, well, I'm a big person, so I need a big job or a big this, or Baba should treat me in a big way or something like that. I went in, I'm just a student. I'm a beginner. I don't want to be a teacher. I know who the teacher is. It's Baba. So I was like already setting that up.
Mm-hmm.
Did I know all what I was going to have to let go of in order to? No. I knew where I was going to end up, or what I wanted to end up, where I wanted to end up, but did my idea change? No, it didn't. Because I already knew.
Yeah.
I knew at the beginning. I knew. Oh no! So I knew. That's why I was so anxious to have the relationship. I knew he was the only one that was going to chop off my head in a way that was going to get me back to that experience that I had had and that I wanted, which was that I knew exactly, completely who I was in the best sense of the word, and that, but I didn't know at that point, I didn't know the practice. I had had experience, but I didn't know the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew somewhere in there because of all the work I had done, that it had nothing to do with external rituals or anything like that. So I didn't know how I was going to get it. I didn't know what it looked like. So that's what, I guess,
Okay, yeah.
that's what evolved. But I knew it wasn't the chanting. I knew it wasn't the meditation per se. I knew it, people meditate for hours and get nothing. I knew it wasn't the Guru's Seva. There was something internal. It was an internal something. And I kept on saying, well, what am I doing internally? What is happening internally? What happened? It wasn't, when I experienced something great when I danced, what did I do internally? I kept on always asking myself, when I was doing Tai Chi 16 hours a day, something would happen, but when I stopped doing Tai Chi, it was gone, so the rest of my life sucked. So what was I doing during Tai Chi? What occurred, but I couldn't get the split of the completely internal practice. You understand? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that I knew he knew it. I just knew he knew it. I didn't know how, other than that because I had that experience of complete separation, I knew he knew it had nothing to do with whatever was out there. And so I could just stand. That was the whole thing of learning to just be able to, I needed to be with him, and I knew I needed to physically be with him for him to teach me. And so, and I was like, he knew there would be like, I was like, I want it. What is it? How is it? What is it? And it wasn't verbal. It was just, I knew. And so there would be, when around him, I couldn't do anything but bore in. And and it just got stronger and stronger. That answer?
Mm-hmm.
I got a follow-up question about that.
Yeah.
So around him, you said you couldn't do anything but other people certainly did not do that, right?
No, they weren't.
But you were saying, but you were consciously doing that.
I was
practice,
consciously doing it.
But it also around him reinforced it. Yeah.
It reinforced
Okay.
it. So at the back steps, we'd eat food, and I'd be boring in. He'd ask me to go get somebody, and I'd be boring in. And so it became clear the external, that's what I wanted it all the time. I didn't want, most people were just going about their business. That's why I loved being the gopher for Baba. Because most people linked all their experiences with the chanting and the meditating and doing japa and all that sort of thing. I knew by then it wasn't that, because I knew that people do that and get nothing. And there were people who get, but it's sort of like I ran 20 miles and at the 21st mile, finally I clicked into the zone and it was fine. But I don't know how I got there. I don't know what I did. I didn't know how to do that. And do I have to run 20 miles every day before I'm going to get finally into the zone? Oh my God. I didn't want that. That was Tai Chi. I was doing Tai Chi 16 hours a day. Felt great. Finally, I got really good at it, so it wasn't 16 hours before I got there like by 2 hours and then the hour, and then I could just do it. But I didn't know. When I walked out, I couldn't walk into a store and be there, or walk down the street and be there. It was still linked with physicality.
Right.
And so by being in front of, being at that back stair, where there was nothing, we weren't doing anything. There was nothing to do. And then he'd ask me, go get somebody. Here, try this food. Go do this. Do that. And the same in the front, but that was very specific. He was sitting there and we would sit there for 15 minutes and just no words, no anything. It was just going in, just it. Oh, this is it. Got it. This is it. Because what happened around Baba's with the Shakti was people would have incredible experiences and they would just, oh. But then you leave Baba's Shakti, then what happens?
You don't know what to do.
You don't know what to do because it's completely unconscious. And I knew all about unconscious. Unconscious is easy. I wanted to have it, I knew it had to be conscious. There had to be a consciousness in what we do. And he'd say it. He'd say what Sahaj Samadhi was. He'd say it in the public talks. But right now, you guys, if you go to look at the litany of Christianity, you go look at of Judaism, if you go look at the litanies, you'll see the practice now. You can actually see it in there. It's embedded. But how many people knew it before they were actually practicing here? It doesn't make any sense. So I will work with, people of different religions who will all of a sudden go, oh, it is there. I go, yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. It's just idealistic. It's just an ideal. And what Baba was doing is, it's actual. So he would say it just like it's in the litany, but until it is experienced as actual, it has to be conscious. Oh yes, I love God with all my heart. What does that mean? And people will do it as an idea, and it's an ideal, and it's looking, there's some external, and as long as they're looking at it as an idea and an ideal, they've missed the point. So at the back steps, asked me if there was any thinking going on. There was no thinking going on. That's the point. So there was no thinking, there's none of the components of personality, nothing. It was just purely the, oh. Now, and a lot of people thought of me as stupid because I was just the gopher. And I look at it as pretty stupid. You couldn't get that it was just independent. But there it is. Understood. And it was like, so that when Baba left his body and all the Shakti's gone, everybody's like dispersed and they're all looking for the next teacher and the next this and for the experiences that they had around Baba, because they were pretty magnificent. Because what didn't they get? They didn't get the conscious practice and I just said, okay, he taught me what to do. I'm mad at him for leaving. He taught me the practice. When I did the practice I experienced bliss. It was my bliss, not his. I don't know what he experienced. So if I do the practice, if I dig in, if I actually do it, we'll see what happens. And here we are. He was true. It was right. It worked. And that was the difference. That was the sad part when I talked to people and they got a great Shaktipat experience and they stayed in the ashram and they did seva and they worked in different places, but they never had any relationship with Baba and they thought the ashram dharma was the practice. But the ashram dharma is what? It's first and second, first level. And then the ones that taught and were doing the study and could take the test, okay, what are the 5 kleshas? And they could write them down. Those sorts of things. they thought that they were doing better practice. They were doing the practice. But they didn't get anywhere because it's still second level. And until we practice third level, no matter what the tradition, until we practice third level, we go nowhere. And I had already done first and second. I knew I wanted that third level, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know you could call it third level. I didn't know it was Shambhavupaya. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know, and that was what, and Baba did. And it seems so silly and obvious now, but it wasn't.
Can you talk a little bit about lineage and how that gets transmitted? How did it work between Nityananda and Baba, and then Baba passing that on to you?
Well, what happens with, let's see, I'm looking for a bad example right now. How many people took a class somewhere and the teacher was not the best teacher, but they thought they knew something and they took the information as valid, and then that ends up, and then you pass it on to someone else? That's a lineage, right? That's a lineage, and it gets passed on, and it's wrong knowledge being passed on. I remember, what was it for Ian in second grade, he had a teacher that said that he had to learn that molecules were small particles of water. Honest. That was okay, wrong knowledge? Yes. Was it being passed on? Yes. So I said, okay, for the test, you write that down for her, but we're going to do a different thing. We're going to talk about reality here. And that's just with concrete knowledge. Concrete knowledge. So lineage was, Baba wanted to be Nityananda. So was Baba originally Swami Muktananda, or Krishna was his original name? And that was the small self. As he worked and surrendered, and he came to his guru, Nityananda, who does he want to be? He wants to be Nityananda. Does he want to act like Nityananda? Baba didn't go running around in a lungoti with no clothes. Baba gave eloquent talks at Carnegie Hall. He didn't grunt like Nityananda did. So the manifestation is not what we're talking about as lineage. The people will say that you can get the bricks and mortar lineage, you can get the institution lineage, and you can get all that sort of kind of lineage, or you can get the internal lineage. And so, were there other people with Nityananda? Yeah, there were many people with Nityananda. Did many people say that they got what Nityananda had? Yes. So that they formed their own family of lineage going down. Baba, then what I wanted was the internal practice. So my job is not to act like Baba, just as Baba didn't act like Nityananda, but I want to, my job and that's what the whole thing of lineage is that if I know my teacher is a good teacher, I want to feel more and more like my teacher and less like me. And that's what. So I feel more and more Baba is here and less Rohini's here. Does that make sense? And that's how it would work. That's how a good lineage works. is it, and then who was Baba at the point that I was with Baba? Baba was working, he was with his guru, Nityananda. So what we're doing is not, it's not Baba the form, it's Baba's internal state. It's Nityananda's internal state.
And is it more like the decision of the disciple to carry on the lineage rather than the guru deciding?
It's both
how
and.
it works?
I mean, it's both and. There's there is the guru saying, you're my successor.
Mhm.
But Baba used to say that anybody and everybody internally was the successor. So there's the story of Mupi Nadia, which I've said was the day after Baba died. Amma told us the story of Siddhartha Swami, that when he was reaching his end, all the board of trustees kept on, you need to name a successor. Got to have a successor. So, and he didn't want to do it, and then they kept on nagging him and said, "Oh, you've got name some. Why don't you name Gurudev? He was somebody. He was the son of a board of trustees." She said, "Fine, Gurudev. It's Gurudev." And he then, Siddhartha Swami left his body. Gurudev gets the bricks and mortar. He gets the ashram. He's the successor. He was the named successor. And then there was Mupi Nadia, who then was still in the ashram and didn't agree with Gurudev. So he left and he went north and formed his own ashram, and all the Shakti from Siddhartha's ashram went north. It's there. And Mupi Nadia was great. And when Baba was sick a couple of times, Mupi Nadia came to the ashram to give him support. So that's the sort of thing. And then there's the great story of the merchant. This is not a merchant who was in a storm on the high seas, and he prays to his guru, if you set the ship straight and I don't capsize it, I'll bring you 10 gold coins. Please help. So the ship straightened and it went, and as soon as he got to shore, he went to see his guru. But in the meantime, his guru had left its body, and there was a whole string of people on the street in tents having set up that they were the successor. And so he went into each of the tents and he pranamed and gave them a coin, a gold coin, and they all said thank you. So he knew they were not. So finally he goes to one and he lays him a coin down, and he says, the guy goes, "Where's the other 9? And he said, "And by the way, look at the bruises from straightening out your ship." And he had him on his back. So there are all these great stories of understanding, and it very much, Baba always, and they always talk about the importance of the disciple. So it's a both and. Anyone else? Oh, I know what I wanted to say, something about tantra, which we talked some on Monday night. But tantra is union. That's all it is. And for everybody who thinks it's about sex, then you've all studied sex, because most of you have done the Shiva Sutras here, the Vijnana Bhairava, the Pratyabhinya Hridayam. Those texts are all tantric texts. Oops, sorry. Was it fun? Do you remember all that sex? Okay, there wasn't. So tantra is about union. and we were talking about dual systems which are, everything's in dichotomy, right? So you have the good and the bad, constant the good and the bad. Everything's good and bad, and everything's judged accordingly and everything. What happens in a tantric system where it's non-dual? Is there good and bad? No. No. Oops. No, there isn't good and bad. So does that mean you then do bad things? No. What happens is, and we were talking, David and I were talking, is that you have pure and impure gets removed. If it's all God, is there any pure and impure? No, it's all God. If it's all God, there isn't any pure or impure. So for somebody who loves thinking of themselves as bad, all of a sudden it gets ruined. And somebody who thinks of themselves and is determined and trying to be good all the time, that gets ruined. Because it all goes away. Pure, impure, good, bad, all of that understanding leaves. You no longer identify in that way at all. And that's, in a lot of ways, for that kind of a sadhana, of a non-dual sadhana, that's the most positive thing. Because a lot of people will hold on with pride to their goodness, and then they can't get rid of it. They won't let it go. Or they hold on to their badness, their wretchedness, their fear of being wretched, whatever. But when it turns out that it's neither good nor bad, there's no pure or impure, all of a sudden, poof, so much for that. You let it go. And then it's back to, then what actually does make the decisions? It's the heart. We're going back. And so then the discernment will be clear and clean. Because sometimes, if I'm committed to my idea of good, I will do an action that I think I am committed as good, or I am committed to as good, and it's actually bad. Or I will think it's bad, and it's actually good. Whereas if I let go of that whole thing, and I'm just cleanly discerning at each action, each moment, each thing, then I give up my ridiculous categorizing, and I'm just appropriate at that moment. I'm just clean, it's clean and clear, and it's universal. So it isn't about being pure or impure at that point. It just is clean and clear. And that's one of the really good things about a non-dual system. Still dangerous because if you, I'm non-dual, it's all God. So whatever I think is God. No. That's when it goes off. No. Is it all God? Yes. And you still have the imperfections, so you're still playing. Until you're actually clear and clean, we're all playing. We're still in a dichotomy. But it's a way to give up good and bad as we proceed. Okay. Anybody else?
Can I ask?
Yeah.
But it relates to what you were talking about earlier. But you were able to see clearly right away what Baba was offering, and I feel like as I've been practicing, I can see more and more. But how? So is it just? I guess the desire to be, you have to be conscious in order to see, because I feel like I miss so much, and I see other people miss so much, and there's so much blindness.
It's about, okay, so let's get, before I came to Baba, I had committed myself very intensely to dance, And I had put myself under the auspices of a teacher who was all about confronting and smashing my ego in order to get me to dance. So I had already done a lot of tapasya. And then I go from there, I ended up in a master's program that didn't do that for me. So I ended up at Tai Chi, and I ended up with Chung, who was constantly pushing that envelope again and keep on. So that there was tremendous amount of having to face what I thought was real was not, even before. So I was incredibly disciplined, and I kept on through dance. It was all about learning how to get technically very disciplined and technically good, but then you had to let it all go in order to dance. So I was already working that. In Tai Chi, it's an internal practice. So even though you do the physicality of it, the whole point was to be constantly letting go more and more. Surrender, surrender, surrender. In dance, it was surrender, surrender, surrender. And be pushed discipline-wise. So there was a lot of dharana, fixity, a lot of, even though I wasn't meditating, there was a tremendous amount of oh, didn't see that before. Oh, wow, hadn't seen that before. So by the time I got to Baba, I was like ripe. I was like, they always talk about people who are ripe. They're just like, boom, right off the boom. So I was ripe. So it is about being conscious. It's about knowing what has to be given up, willing to do the tapasya, not looking for the pleasure, but for the truth. Most people come to get rid of the pain. Most people tend to want to start sadhana because they're miserable and they want to get rid of the pain. But then they want to go to pleasure. And this pleasure is going to be pain. So it's that letting go of them both. And so you keep on, and you keep on listening to what the teacher says, and it goes, oh, you're the perceiver. Well, what does that mean? Oh, my eyes? How my eyes see? Well, wait a minute, my eyes can go, no. So it keeps on going back. What does that mean?
So it's a lot about reflecting. It's fun.
Yeah.
Because even if you think about, like for me personally, stories or art or, working with David and as I had like more understanding of the story, then I could appreciate it.
That's right.
And it seems like that happens with everything, but
That is, you got to go deeper and deeper. Rappaccini's daughter, how many times did you read that? Yeah, 1 million. And it kept on, and all different points of view, and all different teachers, and all different, and it just kept on going deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's the point. It's a lot of people want, and that's what I was saying about being promiscuous. They go to another. They just go to the next door, first level, next door to first level. No, it's about taking. Oh, I've got this story. I'm bored with it. No, this story has everything in it. I got to dig it again. To be an expert, did that mean you had to do 1,000 things or learned something really, really well? So it's about going this way into a subject instead of so much this way. Mm-hmm. And because of the internet and what we tend to do now, we go this way and we don't have any expertise. We have information and no expertise. And we have information that we don't even really understand or grasp or dig or feel. That's the whole thing of really knowing. Okay. Answer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's take a couple of minutes and just go in.
everybody